Welcome in to the Bobby Carpenter Show, and we got a big show for you here today. Big lacrosse weekend, Schlegs, and got some car trouble with Court coming back from Michigan. So I've been dealing with that here this weekend. McLean, they ended up winning, so that was good. Finished their stuff out. Got a little sunburn, everything there, and big recruiting weekend for the Buckeyes. They had. Oh, before we get going, you were actually on campus. How was the
Buckeye? No, I didn't. I was all meaning to go. And so here's what transpired. I appreciate you alluding to that.
Well, because I thought you were down there. I was going to maybe go and see you. I'm glad I didn't go now.
This leads us down a different rabbit hole. Let me tell you something, guys. So Friday's coming around. I think it was Friday. And I go to the Buckeye Country Concert Superfest, and Steph and I are just talking, and we had that trip, but then I came back, she was gone, and I was just kind of like, man, we have so many things to do because we were moving back. Like I got 1 week left. I really enjoy the church that I go to down here at 1122. And I was like, okay, I can be there for Sunday, go to like the last church there. I can help her clean out the house. Now the people that bought our house, they have been fantastic. I mean, they bought the house in December. I told them I'm going to take care of it. I want to leave it nice. They don't need us to repair the holes in the wall. They're repainting everything. They're doing a bunch of different stuff before they move in because they sold their house and put their money into a CD. That's why we're closing later, which was great because it allowed me just to continue to pay on the principal on the home. And so I'm like, hey, I'm coming home. So I didn't go. However, I was blessed.
Doing the suite without you, Schlegs. You were supposed to be hosting.
There were so many other people. There were so many other former players that were there. I was just one of many. So it's like, yeah, I was hosting, but there was a ton of former guys in there, and it was a great time. Jay Hooten went, so it was great. Jay and Lori went kind of in my place, bring the juice meter, and obviously Chris Quinn from the Buckeye Cruise is amazing. But here's the deal. I got to fly to Miami, so this is the first time in the I don't know how many round trips.
Miami Schlegs. This is a different.
Kind of like the Morgan Wallen song of Miami on his new soundtrack that he dropped. But I go to Miami, guys, and I've never flown from Columbus to Miami. It's always been Charlotte, Baltimore, Atlanta, maybe some Nashville sprinkled in there. But let me tell you something. Miami Airport is a special place. If they allowed for you just to go to like TSA and like get through and just people watch for like the day, that would be the airport to go to. And so I get in and it's kind of late. Flight got delayed. I'm like, oh, you know what? I got to grab some food. I ate some pizza. All these people were speaking Spanish, but you know what? They can sling some really good. Yeah, como está? Let me get that. What is that? Oh, that's some type of IPA from Miami. I was like, I'll have that one. So I had 2 slices of pizza. I go down. Flight got delayed even more. I'm like, when in Rome or Cuba, there was a Cuba place, a Cuban little joint right across from my gate. I went over there, and they had like all these pastries and stuff. And I'm looking, they had key lime pie. I was like, hey, I'm kind of by the Keys. Why not? Let's try out this key lime pie. And they had this Hoctua cerveza, and that wasn't what it was called, but it was kind of like that.
Cerveza, is that real?
Yeah, but it was like it was kind of sounded like that. And I took a picture of it and sent it to Steph about it with a laughing emoji. I was like, look it up. Anyways, I had that. Let me tell you something. One of the best key lime pie. And I even told them because they had like a little smidgen of whipped cream on them because they're in the little container. And I was like, yes, ma'am. Can I just get more whipped cream on this thing? And she went back in there in the cooler and she found more whipped cream and just saturated that thing with some whipped cream. And it was phenomenal. It was the best. Anyways, it was an adventure in and of itself at the Miami airport. I'm happy I was able to do it on my last trip, no longer flying back and forth, driving back up on Friday. So we're going to have to figure out that show, Bob, but it's going to be
from the
it's
car.
An adventure, man. From the car. We're just in the car. Yeah. So anyways, it's fun. It was good. That's why I didn't go. I had it all planned out. I had my boots from Durango. I had my shirt I was going to wear. It was going to be a great time, but this was more pressing, and I needed to be here because then I'm driving back on Friday, the 27th. And then sure enough, on Saturday, the JR Memorial is going down at Indian Lake, and I will be there for that.
Okay, that's good. I unfortunately will not. I'm going to be in Philadelphia this year during that because Court's going to be in Indy. Yeah, Court will be in Indy with McLean. I'll be in Philly with Cullen. It'll be his last tournament, so I'm excited for that to be over. How many hours do you think you spent in the Miami airport waiting?
Man, I was there probably 2 hours because it was supposed to be like I got off and go to your next gate. I had like 45 minutes and actually flew American this time, so they already have your
Yeah.
seat, so you're not worried about getting in the A and getting into my exit row seat on Southwest. But then I was there for 2 hours.
Because when I flew back in from Cuba, we flew into Jacksonville Airport, and Vernon Carey, who was there, lives in Miami, and he drove back down. It was like a 4-hour drive. He wanted to get home. It was Valentine's Day to go see his wife. And so I was just curious, at what point, Schlegs, were you going to make the executive decision like, this is delayed, this is a mess, I just want to get home. Let me just go rent a car and drive it to Jacksonville 4 hours up the coast. No?
What's that? Say it one more time. I
You
lost you. No, I was 100% listening to you. I
I
just
said,
lost
at
it
what
in my
point
Google.
in your math, when you're sitting there and you've been delayed that long, Vernon Carey, when we flew back into Jacksonville after Cuba, he rented a car and drove home. And I didn't know if that was in your selection set, your hypothesis. There was never a consideration that you would maybe drive back.
No, because you're going to get that one because it was a full flight. It'd have been different if there was just like sparsely people in there. But I mean, I couldn't even find a seat at the terminal, or not the terminal, but the gate. So it's like they are definitely getting us back. The whole problem is that by the time we got back, it's around midnight, and Steph has to drive, 45 minutes to pick me up. I'm like, I could Uber or whatever. No, I got you. But it's from Lauderdale, from the airport. It's 4.5 hours. It's 4.5 hours. It's not worth it. You got to go get a rental car, then you got to take it up to the airport, drop it off. Like, not worth it. I'd rather just sit there.
Well, I mean, you made your wife get up and go get you at midnight. You could have rented a car, drove straight in the 2 hours you were delayed, plus the 45 minutes to get from your house to the airport. I mean,
then you're eating a flight. I'm not charging that to winning. It's okay.
Okay.
We're a team.
I was just curious at some point, like
team.
you're all about, solutions, protocols, procedures, and finding a way to trample the weak, hurdle the dead, get the job done. But at some point, if you're sitting there saying, what in the Sam Dick am I doing right here? Let's go get on this airplane.
Yeah. If it would have got to midnight, Bob, if it would have got to midnight, I don't know. It was all there. The pilots were there. Like, it was all the navigational beacons were pointing that we were going to get there in a reasonable time.
All right. Well, I was just making sure.
Yeah, fair enough.
With that, so yeah, travel. Are you sad that was your last flight that you'll be flying into Jacksonville?
No. I will tell you this: we absolutely loved our time in Jacksonville. Great friends, going out to dinner with a bunch of different ones. They're actually throwing us a going away party, which is like just kind of cool. We've Steph and I both have put a lot of time, energy, and effort into a lot of other people's families and kids while we've been down here, and we're gonna miss it. Doesn't mean we won't ever be back. But I will say this: I'm excited to actually do life with my wife and family under one roof for the first time in 2 years. I'm pretty fired up about that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm excited to have you back, Schleiss. Everybody's pumped that you're returning back to Central Ohio, and so that'll be a very, very fun time.
I want to ask you this: How was the recruiting thing? Because you left the show on Friday, you went over there and you did the recruits.
It was good. It was
we had some Duncanville guys there. Like, tell us about it.
And the interim dean, there's actually a kid from Southlake, Carroll, too, a receiver that Heartline had that's coming there. He was telling me stories about you. His dad coached. He coached against you when you were at DeSoto.
Oh my gosh!
I'm trying to think where his dad was. He wasn't at Southlake at the time. But yeah, he was offensive coordinator. We talked a lot of shop, a lot of ball. It was fun with him there. And then obviously there's a couple of dudes from Duncanville. They had 17 recruits in for an official visit weekend. I mean, a robust number. And they actually took them over to the Blackwell because they were staying downtown on Saturday night to give them a feel of kind of the game day environment because you had country concert going on. So like logistically talking to Pantone and Quinn and trying to have them figure that out. It's like, dude, that is going to be a zoo for you to bring them all in there and to see all that and like hang out and have like their social on Saturday night up there at the Blackwell. So they did that and I think got a really good feel, but it was good. I was there with the assistant dean who you had him in class, Schlegs. I don't know what he taught, whether it was finance or
what's his name?
Or, oh God, it's I can't. It's he's an Indian dude. He was talking about
Sashi Mata.
No, it wasn't Sashi. he doesn't even work there anymore, Schlegs.
I don't know. I haven't been over there in a hot minute.
He's the interim dean. He helped you set some stuff up with the difference and everything at the beginning. He was talking to me about you and Dan and everything. I didn't have him in class, so it wasn't one of the ones that you had with me. Oh, goodness. But we went up there and had everybody and answered. There was one of the students.
Oh, yeah. Arvind. Yeah.
Arvind. Yes, Arvind.
Yeah, great dude.
It was awesome. So he was talking about the business school and everything, and the, just the university in general and how it all works and the internships and everything. But it went pretty well. But there was a lot of guys that came through 17 official visits. And we'll see this week if we get any booms. I'm sure usually after you get through this, I think that was the last weekend for officials, or maybe this is. But as people take all their stuff, you're going to start to see, I'm sure, some booms come out from Mark Pantoni and the crew as guys begin to commit after taking all their visits through the month of June. Still can take visits during the season, but I know a lot of guys like to get that stuff wrapped up. And frankly, I would have too if I was able to take visits at this time in the spring, as opposed to, like we had to wait till the start of the season and to do it in the winter. So we'll see that. But it was a very productive time, good. And so we kind of ping-ponged back and forth and answered questions. And one of the players asking some great stuff about the internships, class process. Can you get admitted directly into the business school coming in from college? Like, and what's that process like and everything? So it was very good and very productive. And then we got a chance to watch as well. It's like their big Friday night. They had an OTA, and then they had Friday afternoon their workout, and they did it later so the recruits would be able to see it. But yeah, they came in. It was awesome, like watching those guys do the sled pushes and Mick's hyping them up, fireman carries. They've got the racks outside on the weight room, outside on the indoor, cranking out some squats. And it was a lot of fun. There were some guys maybe even giving it back a little bit as far as what their lunch was. It was that type of day. But it's the first really hot weekend we had in Central Ohio. And so some of those guys maybe weren't exactly used to all of the intensity that was going to come with it. But a very big weekend with all the recruits coming through from all across the country, but a lot of guys from Texas that were there, the Duncanville crew, South Lake. I told them we were working on Cooper Witten to try to get his rear end up here too. And I think Peyton was one of the guys who's walking and talking with some of the dudes, getting them down there. So a very, very good weekend. And actually, the kid from South, his dad asked if you were coming over. And I said I was trying to get him to, and he had a long list of excuses as to why he wasn't going to show up.
Not anymore. You should give me his, you know what? I'll reach out to Pantoni and get that guy's contact info.
Yeah. But he had a lot of stuff. He wanted to get a picture with me and everything. I'm like, dude, it's crazy. Like, they're all big Cowboys fans. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, plus it matters because, like, even Peyton, right, and his dad, and like just being from Texas, and it's good that you can have somebody. And honestly, it's why I'm excited to be back and close. And
because Riley's from there too. Pettijohn is from Texas as well.
I know.
Yeah, they get a lot of guys. I told them, hey, you're getting some of that Texas heat here. It gets a little cold. Start talking about it, but I go, it's good. You got to learn to play in the cold. I go, you watch Tennessee come up here. They did not respond all that well. And if you have aspirations of playing in the NFL, then one day you'll be playing maybe in a cold weather environment. And what you need to do it some in college, or you can wait till the NFL. But it's eventually going to happen for you the longer you ultimately play. All right, big show for us. Talking about the college football season, the start of it, what that looks like, when it should be. And this is something that I've been lobbying here for quite some time. We'll get into that here next about maybe that date should be moved because it was always Labor Day weekend, which I love because the NFL is not playing. And so you kind of kick off, but could it be done smarter? We'll get into that next. First, attention parents and athletes, Export mouth guards trusted by professional athletes, designed by NHL team dentists. Export mouth guards are scientifically tested to help absorb those high impact hits, protecting both your teeth and your brain. Export mouth guards feature 3 layers of advanced protection, including a patented use of carbon fiber. They custom fit that thing by 3D printing it right to your grill. It means more protection, better performance, max comfort, and clear communication so you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Visit exportguards.com/Bobby to save 15% on your order. Export, protect what matters most. More of the Bobby Carpenter Show coming up next. Week 1. It's always Memorial Day weekend. And then they start having some of the week 0 games, Schlegs. You remember those? They're playing the week 0. And Ross Dellinger, who does a great job. I believe Ross is with Yahoo, if I'm not mistaken. Ross with Yahoo. talking about the commissioners' meetings this week. So they had the FBS all get together, the commissioners' meetings. They re-examined an old issue that's been under discussion. People have been talking about it, making week 0 the permanent week 1. So basically, Schlegs pushing college football into August 1 week earlier. Now, I know some people, maybe they don't like that. Maybe they don't think that's the best idea. However, if you look at where we're playing and how long they're going to the season, I think this is probably the best idea I've heard. They said it may not happen, but at least at this point, Schlegs, it's being explored.
Yeah, right now for schools wanting to play on week 0 must be granted a waiver by the NCAA. I absolutely think, and the reason I think this, Bob, and I want your takes on it is, you have now with revenue share and people talking about money and how we're doing it in college football. There is the animal, the breadwinner of all sports in the United States, and that is the NFL. And when you have your premier games that coincide with playoff games and matchups, you're not going to get the eyeballs that you would get if you're standalone during their regular season. It's just the fact. Do those games still matter in the NFL? 100%, but it's different than it is when they're in the playoffs and when do they play those. And I think by being able to move up the season to week 0 and just have that unequivocally the start of college football, then you can also get some different matchups, different days, really own the market that is football, almost priming people for the start of the NFL season and getting – because normally the NFL season starts like that second week, third week of September.
It's the week after Labor Day. It's when it starts.
Right, like the 10th or whatever. So it's like, man, now you got 2 weeks ahead of that you can play and really own that space while also having to share. And again, those games, they play on Thursday, they play on Sunday, they play on Monday night. You're not playing games there, but you're going to still be able to own the Saturdays. That's what needs to transpire. The season needs to be moved up. It helps with everything, especially the start when we have the portals, the start of the academic calendar in the winter, right? When does that portal, open up and start, and all the different things that you and I have discussed about one portal, when is that, et cetera, et cetera. But it helps when you move the season up.
Is there any negatives to it? Like I keep talking about looking at this and you're getting away from the NFL, you're getting to things earlier. Hopefully then you're not ending the end of January. You can start, hopefully get this thing under control where you're ending that second weekend in January. I think that's a fine weekend to get it done. So there's people against it. Like, what are the negatives that you would see of why that wouldn't be a good idea?
The only negative that I can see is somebody talking about the spring football and when do we need spring football? When does it happen? How many weeks should it be? I think there's going to have to start being a standardization as to, like, just like in the NFL, if you have a new head coach, you get an earlier week of an OTA, right? Like you have to report earlier than everybody else. Maybe it's the same thing in college football. How long can OTAs go? How long can you actually do spring football? What are the number of days that you could have full contact practices in college football versus just like they do in the OTAs? There is no full pads. They go a little bit longer and they have the mandatory minicamp. Then you go and you literally only have 4 to 5 weeks before you start camp. How do we start to condense that model? Because you're going to need that offseason that leads you into an earlier camp. So the calendars of everything have to start being pushed back. And again, I have no problem with it because I think it forces coaches to be more intentional with what they do with the time that they've been allotted, not only make them a better coach, but also for the safety of the players and the growth of the game and still being able to be technical and fundamental in the things that they're coaching their players to do when they have them.
So you mentioned this, Schlegs, and you talked a lot about it. We talked about the OTAs. So they have the traditional spring ball, 15 days in the spring that you're allowed to practice and wear pads. And then they have OTAs, which I don't think you're wearing helmets, which I think that they probably should.
Yep.
But you should be allowed, I think, to wear helmets just for safety purposes. Anybody breaking noses or whatever, getting the face of the ball or a random hand or someone's head. But they have that. They've added those in, and that was a couple years ago. And so that's helping to get people more prepared. And so if you're pushing everything up a week, I feel like we're doing enough development now in the offseason to be able to offset that. And maybe they taper some of the spring ball down a little bit and add more time in the OTAs. But outside of that, changing the calendar, I don't see any other negatives. The one thing that people in the South have told me is that it's too hot. But I go, the guys are practicing outside that week anyway. It's not like it's any hotter that week versus the prior week or the next week. It's some of it's just, weather patterns and seeing what happens. But they complain that fans don't want to go watch games outside in the heat. Like, well, you can play them in the evening and figure it out. Like, whatever you're deciding with your TV partners, that's part of it. But like, that's the only other thing I've really heard about it. Is the heat, like, is that a viable thing? I mean, you
Well,
work
besides on Saturdays, like, let's not kid ourselves, guys. Like, you can control when you go to practice. And this is not the early 2000s, late 90s, Bob, where we had 2-a-days. Like, they have 1-a-days, And so it's different. All right, it's super hot in Gainesville, Florida. Practice in the morning. I mean, practice when it's the coolest.
You're practicing that time really anyway. I mean, it's not like they go just play the first game. Like, you're in training camp for a couple of weeks prior to that. So like,
and there's acclimatization protocols that you have to adhere by, Bob, through the NCAA. Like, there's all these things that we know. We have for their safety, and rightly so. I mean, you have certain breaks that you have to have. Like, there's all these different things that are mandated within it to make sure that everybody is safe while they're practicing in the heat, the hydration levels, making sure guys' body weights are a certain thing. And if they've lost a certain amount of weight that they have to do certain things to get back to that because of the water that's been lost. These things are being tracked and monitored at all times for the safety of the player. So from a training perspective, just if you're in the set, like, just train in the morning. Like, it's that simple, and it's not going to do anything. I will say, to the point that you brought up, Bob, with the OTAs, I think that every single time there is a ball in play, players should wear a helmet. That doesn't now that the hardest thing you're going to have is how do you regulate the contact and the fitting up, because you do have helmets. But I've always said this, like, if you're throwing a football, what happens if somebody deflects it, hits somebody in the face? Like, wear a helmet. We already know that we're running routes. It's also good to train the neck that way because they have that helmet on. The game is played with a helmet for their safety. Why not do that? And just so everybody knows how they've incorporated OTAs in this manner, what normally transpires is you will go in and you will do your running for that day, right? And there's velocity training, there's acceleration work, there's change of direction work.
So give an idea of what the Ohio State, what that looks like with the OTA built into it.
Yeah, so basically you're going to go out there, and let's say it's an acceleration day and you're doing some resisted sprints, and there's a lot of velocity low profiles, a lot of high-tech stuff that we do to kind of determine what that player needs when they do these type of accelerations. There's some other things that you go through, and then that's about 30 minutes, okay? And then boom, maybe 35 minutes, and you're going, right? And they're accumulating yardage throughout the warm-up. It's 540 yards that they accumulate in Mickey's warm-up. Like, he does that for a reason. Just by accumulation. Then they go through some different, like, mechanics of sprinting, et cetera, acceleration work. There might be some other things. And then boom, it's over, and they go to their position groups. And then in those position groups, they're doing certain things, and it's predicated upon what we just got done running, right? So if you were doing a ton of short burst work, like, we want them to confine their work to the short burst type work. We don't need wide receivers running 40 yards right on that day. If we're doing some type of, like, velocity type work on that day, then some of those routes might be longer because we've tapered certain things or where they are throughout the week that we want to be able to manage that load, those velocities, et cetera. Then as you go throughout the week, you take the totality of that and say, okay, how are we preparing these guys for the first week of camp, for the first week of spring football? How much yardage do some of these position groups need to accumulate? They might have to run some extra tempos, et cetera, at the end of the week to get it. And then they go through it. And then you can always modify, not miss, and taper what you're doing within the lift, predicated upon what they've done in their individual groups during that OTA. But it's always in direct communication with what Mickey Mariah, the strength staff, want them to be able to do with their position coach. So it's not just we're just going out there and doing all these long drills, max velocity in our OTAs when we've already done some of that, right? So keep your high days high and your low days low, and let's work together. And I think Ohio State, because of Mick and his communication and relationships with all the coaches, they do a really, really nice job of managing all those things while working on the fundamentals and skills that they need to be able to play the positions that they have.
And that's a great.
Did that help? Did that help?
That was a great explanation. Great explanation. One thing that people may be confused: the acclimation periods, not the acclimatization or whatever.
Acclimatization? I don't know. I just say
threw
random
like
words.
another
Just own them.
syllable in there. Pat called you on it. I was listening. I'm
Did
thinking,
he really?
that doesn't sound right. Yeah. So it's in the chat. And because it's just the acclimation period. You like acclimatization.
I like acclimatization. I like that one.
Acclimatization.
I just made that up. That sounds
Acclimation. You
amazing.
just
Yeah,
keep
acclimation.
adding in more stuff because you church it up dirt and it sounds a little bit more intelligent. I appreciate your effort in that, Schlegs. That's big time ball. We'll get into that here moving forward. But yes, that he outlined everything there for you folks. That's how they do it at Ohio State, and that's how it works. So, well, coming up next, some trouble in the Big Ten. And one of the teams got some players poached. They got a player poached. And we're going to dive into what that looks like and what happened there here coming up next in the Bobby Carpenter Show. All right, welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show. And Wisconsin, the Badgers, head coach Luke Fickell, lost a player to Miami. And Xavier Lucas.
He liked that Miami airport, Bob.
Was under contract, Schlegs. And then he just left. And I think he just left even after the portal had already closed or something. I remember it being weird where he was under contract and I don't think the portal was closed. And he just went down to Miami. And it's going to go play there now. And so Miami, Ross Dellinger pointed out, landmark moment in college sports. University of Wisconsin has filed a lawsuit against Miami for tampering, eventually poaching a college football player under contract per documents obtained by Ross Dellinger at Yahoo Sports. I don't know like legal breach because there's not really any oversight. I mean, the NCAA is the one that's kind of in charge of this. I have no idea where this is going to go, and it's kind of crazy to see it all happen.
So in this report on Yahoo Sports, it said that his dad suffered a serious life-threatening illness, and he requested a transfer after learning while home over the holidays. And then I think Wisconsin, again, under contract, is saying that some of the information that they got on December 21st, 4 days after he originally asked for his name to be inputted into the portal, was inconsistent with that. And then there were some things that Miami was offering him more of a lucrative compensation commitment.
So
should he leave?
They did some research and his dad apparently wasn't sick.
No, I don't know. And I'm not going to throw that out there. It was just like some of the stuff that he was providing them was inconsistent. And I think that all of a sudden he shows up and now I'm going to be at Miami. And so this goes back to, when can you go into the portal? Does a school have to allow you to go in the portal? What if they've already paid you this money? Like you're under contract. That would be like, you're in the NFL and it's like, hey, I'm going to go play for Jackson for the Cowboys. I'm playing for the Jets. I'm going to go play for Dallas because my dad's down there and he's sick. And I'm just going to go down there and play. I'm leaving. I'm down there and they want me. No, but you're under contract with the Jets. So it doesn't happen. And I think really all of this, the contracts, like the start dates, like the portals, like there's so much gray until it's just black and white. And here's what it is for all 134 Division I colleges. We're going to always have these type of issues. And I think that that's why Wisconsin is doing this, to say we need a precedent. Like somebody out there have enough baboombas to make a ruling as to like what is right and what is wrong, and when can somebody do something and when can't they? And the contract that somebody signs, like, is it worth the paper that they sign it on when they can just leave and, say, hey, like I remember transferring. It's like, I transferred high schools. Now, part of it was because the UIL took over wrestling and DeSoto didn't want to have wrestling. And so we went to Highland Park. Guess what? They had the best wrestling program. They didn't give me any money or anything, but my mom kind of worked down by there. So it's like, hey, we're transferring to Highland Park because my mom works 10 minutes away and she's tired of driving from DeSoto. Like that's false, but there's no contract, right? So I can make whatever I want to make up to be able to go to school. But I never signed a contract. And that's the difference. Like, what is the validity of these contracts, especially when you're paying people for the opportunity
a lot of money.
To benefit off of their name, image, and likeness. Like I give you money so I can have you here and benefit off of your name, image, and likeness. And I'm paying you this money to be able to do so. And then you up and leave, take that money. He played 1 year there. So that's why I think this is happening and why I'm excited to watch how this works out in the courts.
what they're also alleging is the tampering element of it, because you're not allowed to talk to players unless they're in the portal, and
he wasn't in the portal.
he wasn't in the portal yet. And so that they reached out, and like, how would you know? And this is the joke of it all. Like, agents in the NFL, I mean, they talk to all these different teams, and like, well, I wasn't talking to him about Schlegels, I was talking to him about Bobby, who's going to be a free agent. It's like, it's a little bit of a wink and a nod, and everybody kind of knows what's going on. But in this, like, it's a much different situation, because there would be no way other than like, well, you talk to your old high school coach, and in some cases, like you and I, your high school coach is your dad, so then it's like even more gray area in this. But the tampering, I think, is what they're most upset with. Is
100%.
we had to deal with him. He signed the deal. Maybe his dad is sick and he didn't know about it, which those things can happen. It sounds a little bit stretched, but wanted to get back home. And so I get Wisconsin now, like, filing a thing about tampering. But this honestly strikes the issue with this is this should be under the purview of the NCAA. They should be the ones that are dealing with this, and they would punish Miami and maybe make the players sit out or whatever it is. And that this isn't just Wisconsin and Miami. This would be anywhere when this stuff occurs, that you have to have some sort of rules. And if you have rules like that aren't enforceable, well, then that are unenforced, then you don't have any rules anyway. The rules are useless if they're not enforced. And so this is the problem. It's now in the courts, which is where we love to live. I'm trying to get college football out of the courts and get onto the field. There's a song in the 80s, like, get out of my dreams and into my car. And like, let's get it out of the courts and onto the ball field.
Yeah. And Bob, you're absolutely right on this. And the whole point is, Miami's, again, I'm proving this, and I'm just kind of saying probably what they're thinking from a Wisconsin standpoint. You have a player that's here. He's a freshman. He played. He's under contract. We given him money. He's not in the portal. Somebody's already reached out prior to him putting his name in the portal. Once a player puts their name in the portal, they are allowed to be talked to by other schools. He wasn't in the portal yet. He's being contacted by Miami. He then brings up that his dad has an illness. Whether or not that's valid or not, we don't know, but they've already have been talking to him as to, hey, why don't you come to Miami, before he puts his name in the portal. Like, that's kind of the discrepancy as what they're trying to think about, and that they're making these, they're suiting him when he's not in the portal or has discussed with the school that's been paying him through a contract. And that's kind of the problem.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, there's an ordered operations of how this is supposed to go. But at the genesis of this, like, this should be something that's governed by whatever the governing body of college football. And that's why the schools that are all part of this are going to have to sign up and say, like, we're not suing stuff anymore, entities. We're going to handle this in arbitration, and whoever's in control, we have to listen to them. And we may not like it all the time, but if we don't have any rules, Schlegs, well, then there's chaos. I think that was Without Rules, There Is Chaos. I think that's a George Costanza original. All right, I want to tell you about my friends over at Backer, the premium Buckeye brand that you love, bckr.com, founded to make better quality fan gear. I was rocking last weekend, or actually on Thursday. I was telling you about the rain jacket that I had out on the golf course. It was sweet. Got a lot of compliments on it. Their stuff is premium. It is phenomenal. It's the high-end gear that you're looking for there, and it's got the sweet Blocko on it. So that's all you need. So go check it out. They've got loads of features on it. That's bckr.com, backer.com. Use promo code all caps BOBBY Bobby at checkout for free expedited shipping. Again, that's Backer, bckr.com. We got our headlines coming up next. Okay, now we got our headlines brought to you by our friends over at Lake Spur Marketing. Lake Spur Marketing is a full-service ad agency that's built on trust, on strategy, on performance. The Lake Spur team, they're going to shield you, Schlegs, from all the outside noise, the cold callers, let you do what you do best, which is run your business. They have the experience you need with over 100 combined years in the biz. Lake Spur eliminates the waste and delivers on budget. They don't chase clicks. They build partnerships. Lake Spur Marketing. The proof is in the partners. Our headlines now. Buckeyes got a lot of dudes in the NFL, and we like to catch up and see what's going on with those guys and how they're tracking. Mecca Ibuka is down in Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield. If we pull that up, Pat, some of the compliments that he was throwing Mecca's way was pretty impressive. And so let's take a listen to the Bake Show.
Rookie, he doesn't act like it. At least this level, you got to have talent. Obviously, he has that, being a first-round draft pick. The thing that sticks out is how cerebral he is. He's so smart. Right now, I think we could plug and play him at any receiver spot. He understands the offense that well, and that's just him being a pro already. It's been really good to see him take that ownership. He takes it extremely serious, but he's in constant communication. He always wants to be in the right spot at the right time, and he's much like J-Mac of the understanding in zone coverage, and Chris as well, of understanding when to be open, the voids in the zone defense, and how to be friendly to the quarterback. So it's a nice luxury to have.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It is. It's about as good a compliment as you can get, Schlegs, with what he was able to do, and getting down there early and being able to have the type of success that he has had is awesome. I believe, goodness, Mike down there said that he reminded him of Godwin with his hands, but he ran like a running back. So pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, it's great when you have guys that have been in the league for a long time that understand the value that you have coming in. And we all said this about Emeka before, and it was, again, it's fits and opportunities. When you get drafted, where do you go? But I've known this for the first day that I saw Emeka in the weight room. I was just like, oh man, this is a bona fide dude. But his football acumen and is just something that just elevates him to another level. And him being at Ohio State and not necessarily being like the X or the Y, like he can do all of those things. He has the speed to be able to do all those things. But you could plug and play him. And again, in the NFL, what is it always about? It's about matchups. And so regardless of where that matchup is or who's on the field or where you can move them or how you can add the most value, when you have a player that knows every single one of those to the level of which Emeka has, and again, that goes back to the tutelage of Brian Hartline and Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and the understanding of offense and where the weaknesses are in the defense, man, and then a grown man that can handle his business that way and walk in as a rookie and just be a pro because he's been being a pro for the last 4 years of his career at Ohio State. Awesome to have. And it's great that he's able to go to an organization and a veteran quarterback that sees that and wants that. And Emeka will be a huge voice in that locker room, not necessarily as a rookie by his voice, but by his actions.
Absolutely. All right, so we've got our tailgate talk coming up, brought to you by our friends at Real Truck. You're going to take this and ride this pony right into the ground. I got to handle some things here. Got to see a man about a dog. So finish the program strong for about the next 5 to 7 minutes, and look forward to catching up with you soon. We got tailgate talk brought to you by our friends at Real Truck coming up next.
Boom, I'm back. Bob's gone. I love that. Hey, you know what? Throw up there on the ramp and bell and the band on Bucknuts there. So I want to just talk about this. And, I think that this is something that we've seen. We've had a lot of talks about this. I was going through, Ross Bjork. Bob and I really like him. I think he has a vision of what he wants to make while also tying into things that we love about Ohio State. And there's a lot of questions. And I'm with you guys. Like, as much as we talk about the bathrooms, making those more efficient, we need to be able to do that. But how do we increase the game experience? We obviously know that we need more night games, but I think that he's thinking in the right nature. Like, how can we just level up on a lot of different things? The scoreboard, the music, the band's going to be now in the closed area. There's going to be more students over in the South End Zone in the Block O area. What do we do there for more engagement? I think he's thinking about things the right way as far as what we need in the atmosphere of the shoe. And so I just want to bring, this is a great little article. If you guys have time, go read it. But I think he's listening to the people and what needs to change there in the shoe. And again, I'm with you guys. Like, we need to modernize the shoe in certain regards. There's a lot of different things. I'm like, keep menus short, like be really good at, have it to where you can access them quickly, have better locker rooms, have better an experience, have more night games. Those things are kind of out of his control because they're contractual with the TVs and when we can do it. But he's got to be the flag bearer for what is best for Ohio State, and I think he's trying to do that. Let's go to Tim Walton on mindset. Tim, obviously, he's been throwing out some doozies here lately. So, hey, here's the one thing, too, guys, that I like the most about Tim, about OG, about Lachlan, about Larry Johnson. And again, they had those two guys in from DeSoto, edge rushers. They had a bunch of commits that were in there this weekend. But anytime you have coaches that are able to make a mark and discuss with parents about what differentiates Ohio State from everybody else. It's the coaching. It's the relationship of the guys. Before you press play there, I want to say this too. It's great for them to be able to go and see a workout, and that's why Mick held it off and did more of a team workout during that time, because they need to see what is required, and they need to see the Caleb Downs, the Sonnies, the Arvells, the Carnell Tates, the Brandon Ennis, like how they work, like the attitude and intensity of which they train, that it's all business, how the coaches coach them. It's one thing to be coached by a coach in camp versus another one when you're on campus and you're in their room. How does he coach? Like, is he the same? And like, that's exactly what I like. Or is it even ratchet up another level? How do the guys engage with each other during individual drills? More importantly, I tell the people this all the time, watch how the people that aren't lifting are encouraging and holding others accountable in their group, because that shows how good the culture is. Pre-game Friday, Tim Walton style.
Lyrics in town are not Jelly Roll or King Brown or Little Baby who's here. It's OG Tim Walton. And we're going to do something a little special for you tonight. It's Friday, right?
Tim.
Brotherhood is real. From beginning to end. In the playoffs started falling, but we had to be all in. I gave it to the guys, but it went over their head. So I had to slow it down and run it back so you knew exactly what I said. We married to the game, but we a different breed. They tried to bury the Buckeyes, not realizing we were seeds. We told the narrative of how the story was told. But if one man showed weakness, then we were all exposed. Then let the noise of adversity dim our light. The bumps of the journey was just turbulence of the flight. August 31st, Texas, the shoe will be packed. First game of our journey of running it back.
I love it. That was fantastic. I'm going to hit a break. We're coming back. Parting thoughts, Buckeyes. Hey, parting thoughts. Here's one thing that I think Bobby did it. He's over there. They're pulling all these different people from business schools, other colleges. They're talking to parents. And I think the one thing Ohio State does really well is you're not only recruiting the kids, you're recruiting the parents. And I think the parents' job is to not like you are checking out the school, but you're also checking out the coaches. You're also checking out the young men that my son is going to be a part of. That culture. I think Ohio State does it fantastic. They do a great job of it, but it's because you have men like Tim Walt that is authentic. They're them all the time. Terrible rap. Again, why we have Buckeye Country Concert Superfest going on, but guess what? We don't need him to be a rapper. We need him to be a hell of a football coach, and he is. He's one of the best. We got a great staff. We got great coaches. We got great players. Makes you proud to be a Buckeye. Anyways, with that, we'll catch you on Tuesday with another episode of the Bobby Carpenter Show. Attack and dominate.